All right, and welcome back to Photo Tips. And today, unfortunately, I do not have Nala the cat with us. She was offended because I moved her off the couch earlier. We have a blanket on here normally, but maybe she'll be back next week. But today I want to talk to you about split toning or toning your photographs. Now, I know I've done videos on this in the past, and I have to admit I have made a mistake because there's not only a way to do it in Photoshop, there's also a way to do it in Adobe Lightroom and in Adobe Camera. So let's kind of go over all and give you a brief summary to see which option you might prefer. So let me show you an image here on my screen, and this is a recent one that I just took on the Appalachian Trail. In fact, I'll put a little card up there you can click on and watch that video if you do want to see that. It shows you all those pictures. But I'm going to take this image, and this is basically the way it came out of the camera, although it was slightly underexposed, so I did have to increase the exposure slightly. And these are just some defaults the camera raw decided to throw in. And again, this interface right here that you're seeing, that is going to be virtually identical to what's in Adobe Lightroom. So if you're in Adobe Lightroom, you should see the same thing, at least as far as the editing interface is what you see here in Adobe Camera Raw. So I think I'm going to do a quick crop, and because I'm noticing we're kind of centered over this way. So I think I'm going to go ahead and crop off a little bit on the left to make it a little bit more pleasing to my eye. I think that is pretty good. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring it into black and white because that's the way I see this image. You know, there's not a whole lot of color here. Obviously we have the blue sky, but this is pretty dead down here. It's taken in winter. So I'll go ahead and hit black and white. And I'm not going to do any edits right now. I'm going to bring this into Photoshop, show you the old way of how to tone an image or add some color to a black and white image. And then we'll go back into Adobe Camera Raw and we'll show you that method as well. So let's go ahead and open the image. Okay, so there we go. There's the image in Photoshop. So what I like to do to add color back into the image, we have to go up here to Image Mode. I know some of this is cut off on your screen, but hopefully you can still see it. And we'll change to RGB color. And then I'm going to go over here to these adjustment layers. I have my Photoshop set up in the photographer mode, so the adjustment layers are right here, but they may be in another place in your program. If you're not sure, just go up to Help up here, and you can type in your stuff up here, and it will tell you where the tool is. Let's go ahead and do Photo Filter. And I probably want to do a warming filter. Again, this is going to add some orange here into the image. That's kind of what I want. I think that 85 is too strong, too orange. I think I'm going to go ahead and do an 81 filter. And it defaults to a density of 25%. That's like the saturation, basically, of this filter. As I said before, these particular filters are what you'd use in 35mm or film days. You'd stick it on the front of the camera, a cooling filter, a warming filter. We're just replicating that here in the software, so a similar concept. So, you know what, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to keep it just like that, and I'm going to save out a copy of this so we can see it. And we're just going to say, let's see here, Photoshop. I think that was an 81. So I'll go ahead and save that out so we can come back and compare later. But I'm not going to save the DNG raw file there. Let's go back to our bridge. And I'm going to go back to open it in Camera Raw again. And of course, since we added a color in Photoshop, it's not appearing here in Adobe Camera Raw. So here's what I was neglecting, and I apologize. It's over here. We got black and white mix, obviously, and we have split toning here. So this is what we're going to use. I can actually add tone to the image this way. But let's go ahead and fool around here for a second. I'm just trying to think. So there's not too much color. If we go to our black and white mix, I can make certain colors in the image brighter, like that blue sky. I could blow that out a little bit more, or I can make it darker. I think for our purposes, I might make it slightly darker just based on the kind of image I want. I'm just trying to think. There's a little bit there of orange down there in the branches and stuff. I'm just trying to see if we can bring that up a little bit more. Again, we're just trying to prepare it before we do the image toning. Again, that thing in Photoshop was just a very quick thing that we did. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with that. And let's see, a post-crop vignette, and I'll show you that I've done it before. Basically, it starts darkening the corners. I think that's pretty helpful here in this image. Now, what I'm noticing, though, is I think that it's starting to darken a little bit too far inward. And what we can do is change the size of this vignette. And if I bring the midpoint out, it's basically going to push that vignette a little bit further out. And I think for this image, that works a little bit better. Of course, I can do, roundness and make it softer and all that stuff. But I think that's pretty good. Let's see. I'll do a couple other things. This is actually taken on an iPhone, so there might be a little bit of noise here. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust that, maybe add a little more luminance noise reduction there. Whoops, that was too fun. Let's go back and fit and view. There we go. Okay. And then I think what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to go over to my split toning, and two things are going on. You see highlights here and shadows. So basically highlights is like what it says. It's going to adjust the lighter areas of the image here, like, up here in the sky, maybe some of the highlights here on these branches, but it's going to almost ignore some of these darker areas. So let's show you. Let's see if I just do highlights, what's it going to do? So if I go here, hue, what this is going to do, I don't know why they call it hue. I guess that's because I'm thinking it's something else, but I'm going to go ahead and move this slider to the desired color that I want. And I can kind of see it here on the saturation slider. You see that where it starts to change color. I wish this was a little bit bigger, but it's the same interface in Camera Raw and Lightroom. I think I want to make it a little bit more yellow. And then we can go in here and do saturation. Okay, so you can see here, not a whole lot is happening. I mean, of course, if I bring it up, it is. Actually, that's kind of an interesting image. Wasn't planning on doing that. But as we do it subtly, which is normally what I like to do, the effect isn't super strong. So I'm going to say, bring it about right there. There or so. There we go. Okay. So shadows, I think, is going to make a bigger difference. So I'm going to attempt to get the exact same color, more or less, down here in the shadows tab. And then I'll go ahead and bring up my saturation here. And as you can see, when I do that, it makes a lot bigger effect, because there's a lot more shadows here than highlights in this particular image. And I'm going to start fooling around with it. Let's see what I can do. Okay. That's almost too much saturation for me. Again, this is a new tool for me, so I'm fooling around with it probably just as a lot of you are right now. Okay. I'm going to say about right there is what I want. Of course, I can adjust. Just trying to think if this color temperature, probably all it's going to do is make it a little bit brighter or darker. Yeah, it's not actually affecting the actual colors there. So, okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and save that out. And but before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and make a quick few last adjustments. Make it a little bit more contrasty, a little bit. So we adjusted some clarity. That's that contrast effect right there in the actual contrast areas. And I can do the contrast of the whole image. And I might do some highlights here as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that out as well, and we're going to say this is split tone, and we'll say Camera Raw. There we go, and we'll hit done, and we'll have an image saved out. Okay, so let's start with what we did in Photoshop. Now, bear in mind, I did not do all the edits that we did in Adobe Camera Raw, so let's focus more on the color right now. I don't have that vignette like we did over there. This to me, I actually like the way this looks a little bit more than the other one. It's more subtle. The other one seems so much more dramatic to me. And that may, as you work at it, you may be able to refine a little bit, but I'm so used to doing it this way. To me, it's just simpler. Even though we're having to save out a Photoshop file, I like the way that looks to me. But let's go over to our Camera Raw capture. You can see here, it's a completely different color. We had trouble exactly, making that same color we did in Photoshop. But, this has its charm too. And obviously we've done the vignette there. So, those are our two options. And I'm curious to see what you might prefer, what methods have you used, what do you think? And again, I apologize, it took me so long to figure out there are two ways to do this, but as you can see, you get different results. So I, at the moment, have a certain preference. We'll see if that changes later on. But that is our quick photo tips today on how to do split toning both in Adobe Camera Raw and Lightroom, as well as Adobe Photoshop. So do appreciate you watching. Please like the video. Please subscribe. Please follow depending on what platform you're on. Really do appreciate you watching. You have a good one. Bye-bye.